Hi there, this is Sheena Rowlands and today I'm sharing with you my latest layout for Hey Little Magpie. And for this layout I'm using the Simple Stories range, Simple Vintage Love Story, and I actually got the Collector's Essential Kit, which is something I've not done before. I also got the basic kit pack, which is six like background papers. So this stamp paper really spoke to me from the start. It's called their Love Notes from the Simple Vintage Love Story range. And I decided I was going to use it and as two vertical columns either side of a 12 by 12. So I'm making this look much more difficult than it really could be because I couldn't find my blade. So I've come in with a small pair of scissors and I'm actually working my way around some of the stamps. On average, I'm trying to leave a couple of stamps next to each other on the border. I've used 3 at the top and the bottom just to give it a bit more of an enclosed feel, but generally I'm cutting round 2. So I'm just doing this, I'm just looking as I go. I didn't really overthink it in advance because I wanted to get like a bit of a stepped pattern. So I'm just going with the way that the paper is. So I do apologise that it's going backwards and forwards. And I'm already left-handed, so it does make it look a little bit random. But there's the 2 pieces either side. So I'm going to keep that because I want to reuse some of the stamps on there. And I've already chosen my photograph and I've brought in some of the other supplies so that I can actually add them to it. I'm looking for something to back this photograph with. It's of my parents before they were married. I thought this love story range would be absolutely perfect to scrap another picture of them. I actually already had this printed, had something else in mind, but when I saw this collection, I decided it would be absolutely perfect. So because I've got the stamps on either side, I want to create a vertical embellishment cluster, essentially. So I've cut up the tag paper, and I'm going to use, I think I used 4 in the end, but I'm going to use those as the basis of the embellishment clusters down the centre. Now, I've got quite a lot of the embellishments for this collection. Quite a few came in the actual Collector's Essential Kit. I would definitely recommend you check that out in the Hey Little Magpie store. Good way to get enough of a collection that you can really enjoy scrapping with it. And some of the ephemera pieces are actually quite big, so I found a nice one with like a doily effect. I'm going to use that as the basis to sit the photograph on. So I'm just having a good look through. If you've watched my videos before, you know that I don't like to miss out on anything, so I like to have had a look at everything. I feel like I can use any of the pieces in any of the colours because they're all in the stamps around the side, so there's no restrictions in my mind of what I can use. I want to use some stamps potentially in this cluster as well to tie in with the stamps around the edge. So not only was I thinking obviously vintage, and that's why I've used a black and white older photograph. My parents met in the days where you wrote to each other, and excuse me, my mum actually moved away to college while they were dating, and they kept in contact. Obviously there was she was living in a guest house while she was a student, so there was no chance to be using a phone, and they wrote to each other. So I just thought that was a really nice touch, just to have this paper, just to remind myself of how things were done before mobile phones and the internet and everything. Even I remember those days. So I've come back in with the stamp paper and I'm cutting out some duplicates of some of the stamps that are in the border that I've created, because basically I'm going to pop them on a bit of foam and double them up in places. Just a few, I think I do 5 on each side in the end. Some of them are even hanging over the edge, but it just adds another dimension because in the centre it's going to be quite poofy in the end. It's going to be on lots of bits of foam, so I just want to make sure the border's not completely flat. So I'm just checking. I suppose I don't really need to layer one stamp on top of the other, the same stamp, but I have done just because they fit perfectly. As you can see, I've kept the bit of the black outline, but I think it works really well on this base layer. And the base is the Sage paper from the Basics. It is a pale pink, it's rose on the other side, but I preferred this green as a more natural colour because the photograph was also taken outside, so that's kind of like some of my thought process to why I chose this. So I'm looking at adding a couple of tags either side. I'm looking at colours that will stand out, so I've picked a couple of the pale blue ones because that colour obviously appears around the side as well, and I think I've just added a couple of flowery ones as well. Still looking for a fourth. I like to look at both sides, as I've said before. I like to look at everything, and I think I go with the darker flowery one because there's quite a bit of black in the border as well, and with the photo I think that would work really well. The ephemera for this range is wonderful. Lots of different choices, not just florals and butterflies, but there are some separate stamps. There are some little like watermark postmarks. I'm going to definitely try and get them in. And lots of other bits and pieces, even some like flat wax seals as well. So you'll really enjoy creating with this collection. I would recommend you check out this at the Hey Little Magpie store, along with all the other new collections that are coming in all the time. The shops, literally there's stuff being added daily, so I would really recommend you do that. So I've tried to balance the ephemera top and bottom. There was a couple of titles that I really quite like. I like the XOXO die cut, and I quite like the Love You as well. Decided to have them on alternate corners just because I think that looks a little better. So I'm having a good old rummage back through all the ephemera, see if there's anything that I've missed. Decided I'm going to add 2 or 3 butterflies as well down the cluster, but I still want some like white space as such. I just want a gap between the two. So I've stuck the stamps down off camera, and I'm now going to start to gather all of this. So I'm just going to punch the holes in the tags. I don't actually put anything through them, but I do always like to punch the holes. And I'm just going to slowly but surely work at sticking the top of this down first. I've put the photograph on a bit of foam, so that means I can layer all the bits underneath it. Just a bit of children's craft foam from a local store. I did cut the tags by hand, and I'm just trimming. There was a few bits, hadn't quite cut them as well as I would have liked, and I'm going to start to add those behind the photograph as well. So I know this has been launched ready for essentially Valentine's Day, but actually I do feel, because of it's got a nice vintage feel, that you could use this collection to scrap lots of different photographs. So I don't think I would be put off from getting it because it's essentially been launched for Valentine's Day. I think not particularly anything in there. They do say love story, and there are lots of hearts, I will admit. But actually it's just got such a nice feel to it that you could scrap anything. And I'm going to be scrapping with it over the month. So you will get to see that I'm going to actually scrap lots of different things with this, so that it's not hopefully too lovey-dovey. But if you do have any questions, do put them in the comments below. We always come back and answer anything if you have any queries about this collection. So I'm now cutting up some foam pads just to add between the layers, just so the tags aren't touching. Just gives a little bit of a shadow between each layer, and it so you can see them a little bit better. So I'm just going to add that title on the corner of the photograph there, and I've added a circular heart from the, that doesn't make sense, a circle with a heart on from the Puffy Words set, and there's me tucking in a few more foam pads. I make such a mess with these. I end up with bits all over the floor, stuck to the bottom of my slippers, and they seem to carry through the house, but hey. So I've stuck the lower cluster down pretty much off camera, and I'm just tweaking it now, adding a few last bits and pieces. Just feel that the title isn't raised enough, so I'm going to add another foam pad under that just to lift it off. I felt it was sticking to the other bits and die cuts. So that looks a bit better now. I prefer that. And I've got another butterfly there that I wanted to add to the side. So I've got 3. I've got one top and bottom and one in the side, just because we know that things look better in odd numbers. Lots of butterflies on the stamps as well. So just finishing off now, I brought in a tab punch. I'm going to just punch a tab from this stripy paper. I want to find out what date it is. I don't know the date offhand, so I'm going to add that to that bit later on, but I'm going to stick this in place ready. Feel that this is pretty much there. So there's just showing you some of the dimension. Thank you so much for watching. Here's the full image and some close-ups too. Give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and come back to see further layouts using this collection. Thanks so much for watching. Bye for now.